We're starting with WWE, and this week Odyssey Jones was fired over allegations of domestic assault less than a month after he was pushed heavily on Raw in a program with The New Day. Recently, a rumor began circulating that Odyssey Jones had been arrested in Arkansas, which quickly spread online. Domestic violence. A PW insider has learned that the arrest story is entirely false. The rumor alleged that a person named Omari Palmer, Jones' real name, was arrested in the state, leading to widespread speculation about the wrestler's legal troubles. Given that he was removed from WWE's roster out of the blue, some believed this arrest related to what WWE had done, but as we said, reports of Jones being arrested are incorrect. While there was an individual arrested on August 24th named Omari Palmer, the age and mugshot is not of the ex-superstar, and differences in personal details confirm as much. Although Odyssey Jones wasn't arrested, he did lose his job with WWE just as he was placed in his storyline with The New Day in their feud with The Final Testament. It had even been hinted that Jones could replace Big E as a member of The New Day, but now we'll never know what the endgame of that storyline would have been. In light of Jones' departure from WWE, an account on Twitter called The Truth About Odyssey Jones has been receiving a lot of attention as it makes several claims against the wrestler. The account claims that Jones is a woman beater and that the ex-superstar left me bruised up with a slight concussion while on vacation for his birthday. The account also alleges that Jones has CTE and bipolar disorder and is a completely different person behind closed doors. It's important to note that we cannot vouch for the authenticity of this account, as the one behind it does not confirm their identity, and that with any claim, Jones is innocent until proven guilty. For accurate updates and news on Odyssey Jones, it's best to rely on verified sources and statements. We'll be here with all the verified updates at Slatrock Wrestling News. What's your take on Odyssey Jones' situation? Do you think he'll be back in WWE? Let us know what you think in the comments section. Over to AEW Dynamite, as the feud between Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page reached a fever pitch this week, mere days before their steel cage showdown at AEW All Out. Strickland and Page were meant to meet in the ring to sign the contract for their match, and a no physicality rule put in place should have kept this contract signing a relatively civil affair. Swerve Strickland entered the ring to sign the contract for this Saturday in Chicago, but Hangman Page was absent even when Tony Schiavone announced him a second time. The tension mounted as the broadcast cut to a feed of Page, who was clearly nowhere in the arena. Instead, he was at the childhood home of Strickland, which was recently bought by Swerve. The purchase of the home had been highlighted earlier in the show, and Page said his nemesis had messed up by showing the world and him something which means so much to him. This comes after Strickland admitted to following Page while he was getting his pregnant wife to the hospital, and this time, it was the Cowboys' turn to take things way too far. Page had a gas can and was pouring gas on the floor of the home as he walked through it, ranting to Strickland, who stood shocked in the ring in Milwaukee. Page told him to say goodbye to the idea of ever being AEW World Champion again, and took his vengeance on Strickland by setting his home on fire. The fiery scene ended Dynamite on a dramatic climax with Swerve unable to speak, and while the fire was the highlight, we can't overlook that this segment had one of Page's better promos. It was one of the most interesting segments AEW has ever done, as they had to burn a house down to do it, and Swerve's emotional reaction was convincing as you'd expect. This angle has been one of the hottest storylines in AEW, and that term has taken a literal meaning, and the amount of effort of all involved has paid off. After Dynamite, Tony Khan added a stipulation for All Out, saying Swerve and Page will meet in an unsanctioned lights-out steel cage match, meaning AEW won't be accountable for what happens. That also means the results do not officially go into the company's record books, and means that those involved will get to go all out and expect Hangman and Strickland to tear each other apart. What's your take on these developments? Are you excited for Khan's new stipulation for the All Out steel cage match? Let us know your thoughts and predictions in the comments. At All In London, Daniel Garcia made his shocking return to AEW, costing MJF in his American title defense against Will Ospreay in a moment of payback. MJF had injured Garcia some time ago with a second rope tombstone piledriver, and on last week's Dynamite, Garcia once again attacked MJF and vowed to break his neck at All Out. This week's Dynamite saw Garcia call MJF out for a fight as he can't wait for the pay-per-view, but MJF revealed his presence among the crowd in the UW Panther Arena. The scumbag said that he will destroy Garcia at All Out and cause further damage to his neck when the two meet on September 7th in the Now Arena, but he wasn't done yet. MJF resorted to his trademark promo tactics and disrespected Garcia's mother, prompting the former ROH Pure Champion to jump the guardrail to attack Friedman, starting a brawl. Multiple security personnel tried to intervene, but MJF was able to crack Garcia in the head with a bottle, busting him open and, as pointed out on commentary, leaving him in need of urgent medical care. MJF went as far as to take a taste of Garcia's blood for dramatic effect and expect their encounter at All Out to be an intensely brutal contest. Are you invested in this match given the segment we saw this week? And ultimately, who do you think will win when the Red Death faces the Salt of the Earth this weekend? AJ Styles will be forever considered as having one of the most remarkable WWE debuts, especially given his extensive experience in other promotions before joining the sports entertainment powerhouse. Even with a successful tenure, including a year-long WWE Championship reign, fans are puzzled by the recent underutilization of Styles, along with Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows by WWE. The trio was famously part of the Bullet Club in Japan and had noteworthy programs with some big names in the last decade. After being released, the Good Brothers were re-signed by Triple H & Co. in late 2022. They again joined forces with the Phenomenal One and introduced Michin Mia Yim, but ultimately, it had a forgotten ending too. Styles has been subjected to several losses as the former TNA star bowed out in the first round of the King of the Ring tournament, losing to Randy Orton on SmackDown. The Phenomenal One lost a fatal four-way match at the Royal Rumble that also featured Roman Reigns, LA Knight, and Randy Orton. At WrestleMania 40, he came up short against longtime rival LA Knight. AJ's losing streak continued at Backlash 2, where he lost to Cody Rhodes in an instant classic. Styles was last seen at Clash in the Castle in June, where he lost to undisputed WWE Champion Cody Rhodes in an I Quit match. Although he's been heavily featured in almost all of WWE's live events, he's certainly missing TV time and proper booking. Wade Keller reports that currently there is a discrepancy between AJ Styles and WWE Creative. Styles wants to have a major run with the OC on the main roster and on NXT, but Triple H and Bruce Pritchard are against the idea. WWE wants OC to be exclusively part of NXT and Styles on the main roster. It was also noted how AJ's return to SmackDown has been delayed due to the above reason, and only time will tell how an agreement between these two will come about. What do you think? Should WWE allow AJ Styles to run with OC, or should he have a singles run? Sound off in the comments below. It was in December 2022 that Mandy Rose was controversially cut from WWE, and now, close to 2 years later, she has made her return to the world of wrestling. Rose appeared at Black Label Pro Wrestling's Crowning Glory event, and in addition to competing, she gave a training seminar on running the ropes to the Black Label Pro roster. The unique event was sponsored by DraftKings and is further proof of wrestling's boom period, given that such a massive name was willing to sponsor the rising independent promotion. Black Label Pro was recently acquired by Paragon, and the Crowning Glory event saw wrestlers compete in a variety of athletic contests in the ring. One such contest saw fellow WWE alum Xia Li face off with Rose in a collar and elbow challenge, and it was Li who got the win over the former NXT Women's Champion. Rose had better luck in arm wrestling as she defeated Ash by Elegance, another WWE alum, but ultimately lost in the finals to TNA Knockouts World Champion Jordynne Grace. Mandy Rose hasn't competed since her exit from WWE, and given the fortune she's made from her website subscriptions, she doesn't need to take another bump in her life. With that said, Rose has spoken openly about not feeling finished in wrestling, and as we recently reported, has spoken of her ultimate goal to return to Raw or SmackDown. Do you think Rose will make a return to WWE now under Triple H's regime? And is her BLP work a sign of an impending comeback to wrestling? Give your thoughts down in the comments. In WWE, Parker Boudreaux was touted as the next Brock Lesnar, but when that didn't work out, he joined AEW, but has since similarly left the promotion. More recently, Boudreaux appeared at Black Label Pro's Crowning Glory event where he wrestled former TNA World Champion Moose, but not in a wrestling match as you know it. Instead, the pair engaged in an arm wrestling match that was won by Boudreaux and a display of his dominant arm strength against the similarly jacked TNA wrestler. At 26 years old, Boudreaux has a long future in wrestling ahead of him, and while things may not have gone to plan so far, this display of strength bodes well for the future of the ex-Harlot. More from Dynamite as Jon Moxley seemingly broke character while interacting with a controversial AEW star on Dynamite, and this new ally is none other than Marina Shafir. Last week, Moxley made his return to AEW TV and had revealed that he wanted to talk to Darby Allin, but was seen later in the night with Shafir, who had laid out guards and officials. This backstage segment raised speculation among fans about a partnership between Moxley and Shafir, and the two appeared together on this week's edition of Dynamite. Shafir, the self-professed problem, destroyed multiple personnel backstage before the pair ran into the Young Bucks and Jack Perry on their way to the ring. While Moxley has had his issues with the Elite before, he seemingly broke character in the segment, calling Perry a sweet kid in a bizarre moment given Mox's history in AEW. After all, most of the roster think very negatively of the Elite and how they've run AEW, but Moxley's relaxed mood with them this week is in stark contrast to his Blackpool Combat Club allies. Although it's not clear how things are surrounding the former AEW World Champion, conversations may need to happen regarding where his current allegiances lie. There could be a chance that Moxley has plans of his own moving forward, and while Shafir seems to be a part of those plans, his comrades in the BCC might not be. Eventually, Moxley returned to the ring with Shafir and once again called out Darby Allin, alluded to their previous encounters, and praised the 31-year-old for his passion in wrestling. Moxley also expressed some urgency in his wish to talk to Allin, inviting the latter to speak with him before leaving through the crowd with Shafir. Fans are keen to find out where this developing program involving Jon Moxley, Marina Shafir, and Darby Allin will lead, and where do you see things going? Give your predictions in the comments. On last week's Dynamite, Will Ospreay came face-to-face with Ricochet after the latter's match with Kyle Fletcher, but the AEW International Champion was attacked by Pac. Looking to settle the score and give a tease of this weekend's All Out, Pac and Ospreay met in a six-man tag team match on Dynamite, with both men having some notable backup. In the match, Pac, Wheeler Yuta, and Claudio Castagnoli took on Ospreay, Orange Cassidy, and Kyle O'Reilly in what was unsurprisingly the best match of the night. These six men are celebrated workers for different reasons and worked well together in this main event that saw the trio's champions win when Castagnoli pinned O'Reilly. After the match, Pac and Ospreay continued to brawl while the Blackpool Combat Club members were joined by their stablemate, AEW World Champion Bryan Danielson. The trio were then blindsided by the Elite, and the Young Bucks attempted to hold Bryan down so Jack Perry could hit him with a steel chair, but Danielson was saved in time by his BCC cohorts. Danielson, Castagnoli, and Yuta were able to clear the ring of the Jacksons, Perry, and Kazuchika Okada, and afterward, Claudio challenged the Bucks to a match at All Out. This will see Castagnoli and Yuta challenge for the World Tag Titles, and Danielson, for his part, promised to stomp Jack Perry's head in during their AEW World Championship match this week. Jack Perry is already the TNT champion and has the chance to make history this Saturday should he beat Danielson and become the first man to hold the TNT and World titles simultaneously. But how did Perry end up getting this opportunity over so many other talented AEW stars? Well, Fightful Select reports that the decision was made by AEW. While Danielson will have some influence over his opponents during his final run as a full-time wrestler, it's clarified that it was Tony Khan who had the final say over Perry being picked. Do you think Perry is the right pick? And should the scapegoat get the win given Bryan believing he'll need neck surgery this year? Give your thoughts down below. More from Dynamite as Powerhouse Hobbs was spotted backstage at this week's show in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, according to a report from Fightful Select. Hobbs had been out of action since suffering a patellar tendon tear during his match with Jon Moxley on the April 24th Dynamite, but it's unclear why exactly he was around. It's possible that Hobbs is nearing an in-ring return, though he was perhaps just visiting, and whatever the reason, his presence backstage will excite fans eager to see him back. We'll continue to monitor his situation for further updates, and what do you think of Hobbs possibly returning soon? Who should he go against next? Let us know down below. At AEW Double or Nothing, Adam Copeland fractured his tibia during a steel cage match, and while he retained the TNT title, he'd be forced to vacate it shortly after. In an interview with Sports Illustrated, Copeland gave an update on his recovery and return to AEW, which he unfortunately doesn't know when it'll happen. He said, "It feels really good. I got the surgery, I guess it was June 1st. By the time I finally got the surgery done, So I guess yesterday was 3 months. I've never really broken my leg before, so I don't know what that entails or what that entailed. With my Achilles, it was a process. This is not that, which is good, because the Achilles, I was working 8 hours a day on that thing. It became a full-time job and I got back in 6 months, but it was a lot of grinding of teeth. This isn't that more than anything. It's trying to get the power back and flexibility from bringing your toes to your knee. That's the last area that doesn't want to go yet because the plate goes down to the ankle because it was a lower fracture. It was a lower tibia fracture, so the plate butts up against that ankle bone. Copeland was unable to provide a specific date for when fans can expect him back in the ring, and his absence is a huge blow to the AEW roster. The Hall of Famer's experience is a significant asset, and while he isn't retiring, he might need to reassess his approach upon his return to avoid more risky spots like diving off of a cage. Ultimately, time will tell when Copeland returns to AEW, and what have you made of his AEW booking? What should he do when he's back? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. For decades, WWE handled its business from Titan Towers in Stamford, Connecticut, but recently the company moved to a new building, and now the towers are up for sale. TT Insider reports that the property is listed by the commercial real estate firm Newmark, and that currently no fixed price has been given as the firm is awaiting offers. While Titan Towers was mostly a place of business, it did appear on WWE programming from time to time, including in vignettes and a Super Bowl commercial. In 2020, the venue hosted the Money in the Bank ladder match, and what do you think of all this? Should Tony Khan purchase Titan Towers from WWE? Sound off below. TBS champion Mercedes Mone alongside Kamille took to the ring to address Mone's upcoming title defense against Hikaru Shida, which will see the two collide at All Out. After going through her usual catchphrases, Mone was interrupted when Shida and Christopher Daniels appeared on the screen with a huge announcement to make. Daniels shared that Kamille will be banned from ringside for the match at AEW All Out, ensuring that the match will be fair and free from interference. More from Collision as this Friday's show is shaping up to be a must-see as Hikaru Shida will take on Deonna Purrazzo ahead of Shida's TBS title opportunity at All Out. Orange Cassidy will take on Bryan Keith in a $7,000 match, and if Cassidy loses, he'll have to pay Chris Jericho $7,000 in cash to replace the jacket OC ruined. One name fans will be hoping to see on Collision is Ricochet, who was conspicuous by his absence from this week's edition of Dynamite. Many felt Ricochet went underused in WWE and don't want that to happen again in AEW, and what do you make of him not competing on this week's show? The AEW Women's World title was on the line as Mariah May defended against Nyla Rose, and after a few slaps, the champion quickly found herself overpowered and taken down. May was on the defense for a long time but built momentum after an ad break and used the ref as a distraction so she could trip Nyla on the ring steps. Rose gave the Glamour a competitive fight, and May was the physical underdog for a change, but in the end, it was the champion who retained with a Storm Zero. On Wednesday, September 25th, Netflix will premiere its long-awaited Mr. McMahon documentary that will explore the rise and fall of WWE's former chairman. Given that the project has been in the works for years, fans are eager to watch the 6-episode series, and now Jim Ross has shared how he thinks the series will go. On his Grilling JR podcast, Ross said the quality of the docuseries will largely depend on Vince McMahon's level of involvement, as too much involvement may mean the series is biased. McMahon did give interviews for the docuseries, unlike JR, but as Ross explained, he was never asked to participate despite his connection to Vince. No, I wasn't interviewed for it. Yeah, I was also surprised by that too. What are you afraid of? What's the powers that be afraid of? Why wouldn't you interview me? No one closer to Vince than me at certain times of my tenure. Right-hand man type material. I never got the call. Maybe they didn't feel like I was viable enough to follow up. I would have been happy to do an interview had I been approached, but that didn't occur, and I'm not sure why because I know every secret, every corner, the whole 9 yards. My feelings aren't hurt because I wasn't involved in it. It might be better that I wasn't just because it would be easier to watch. A lot of us hate seeing ourselves on television. Do you believe JR should have been contacted to give an interview? And what are your predictions for the highly anticipated docuseries? Sound off in the comments section below. Jamie Hayter was in action this week against Robin Renegade, one half of the Renegade twins, and this was a glorified squash match that gave Hayter an easy win. This was Robin's Dynamite debut, and while things may not have gone as hoped for the former NWA Women's Tag Champion, it'll be interesting to see if more appearances are in her future. More AEW All Out news now, as Kazuchika Okada will put his Continental Championship on the line this week, but fans will have to wait to find out who he's facing. After his successful title defense against Kyle Fletcher, it was announced that a 4-way title match will happen at All Out, and his opponents will be decided on Collision this Friday. The show has been moved to Friday so All Out could have the Saturday spot, and with 3 opponents, the 168-day reign of Okada is in serious jeopardy. The last time fans saw Toni Storm, it was at All In, where she lost the Women's World title and immediately left the arena with her butler Luther by her side. Now Storm has resurfaced in Australia, where she is promoting next year's AEW Grand Slam event in Suncorp Stadium, and said she wants a rematch with Mariah May Down Under. Storm was raised in Australia, so a rematch will be a huge homecoming for her, and she's willing to wait for a rematch with her former understudy. This week, AEW alum Kevin Kelly, Brandon Tate, and Brendan Tate filed a lawsuit against the promotion, with defamation being one of the big claims of the filing. The Tates, known as Dalton Castle's boys, claimed they were defamed when Tony Khan alleged they'd no-showed events before being terminated from the promotion in April. Kelly alleges that AEW breached his contract and has hindered his ability to secure other work, and has claimed that Ian Riccaboni defamed him earlier this year. In a statement to Sports Illustrated's The Takedown, AEW's PR team said that the company does not comment on pending litigation, meaning we won't hear from AEW until this is resolved. This is a serious lawsuit against AEW, and we here at Slat Rock Wrestling will provide the latest updates on the matter as they become available.